Hello! Welcome to my channel, Edible Thoughts Makes. My name is Stephanie, and this channel is where I share with you my works in progress, finished projects, things I'm cooking up, books I'm reading, funny things my kids may say. My hope is that as you watch this episode and the previous episodes that you find some inspiration along the way. This is episode 66. It is the first week of September, year 2021. Welcome if you are new here, and welcome back if you are a returning viewer. It has been maybe 5 or 6 weeks since I last recorded, and on my last episode I had mentioned that I was probably going to take August off. I think I recorded maybe the first week of August or very early on, or end of July or something like that. We are enjoying some transitional weather, and it is so nice. There were way too many heat waves for our comfort level this summer, and typically, we'll be in the 80s Fahrenheit, and we'll get the occasional 90s, maybe 100, but this summer we had way more than our average of those highs. And right now it is perfect. It is in the 70s. Overnight it's in the 50s, so early mornings are like low mid 60s, and it's wonderful. So we definitely feel fall is in the air. We have gone apple picking twice already. Apple picking season starts like mid-August-ish and runs through maybe end of September, early October, somewhere around there. And there's different varieties to pick in each of those months. And so yeah, I've made apple butter. I've made like puffed oven pancakes with caramelized apples in them. And we mostly just eat the apples as they are. We just wash them, eat them, and they are delicious. So that has been really fun. Our garden is doing pretty well. Things are slowing down a little. We had that big burst of tomatoes where you harvest like 10 pounds of tomatoes a week, and now it's definitely slowing down. We had some pretty big summer storms in there too, which made the tomatoes burst open. I think we read that if you routinely water them, then they get used to the amount of water and they don't burst. But we kind of had a drought this summer, so we weren't really watering them very frequently, and we purposely planted the majority of our vegetable and flower garden in an area that just naturally has a little more water so that we don't have to water them. And yeah, so then they did really well through the heat. But then when there were these big summer storms that just dumped a ton of water, they couldn't handle it and they burst. But it was much welcomed rain, everything greened up, and that was really nice. Our eggplant is pretty much done. The Swiss chard just keeps going and going. We probably need to harvest it more often. But yeah, they're doing great. And what else is growing right now? Our beans are all done. Like our sugar snap peas are all done. Our string beans, we weren't great about harvesting them on time, I feel like, this year. So we will have we will collect them so that we can plant them for next year. What else? Oh, zucchini. We have zucchini growing. And granted, we didn't get like a ton of zucchini. I feel like a lot of people grow zucchini and they like can't get rid of them because there's so many. What we do have a lot of that we tried for the first time this year is spaghetti squash. And my husband built this, like, I want to say climbing wall, but I can't think of what the word is for it. Trellis, maybe? For it, that arches over and connects to our kind of fenced-in vegetable garden because we have a lot of deer and bunnies. And the squash just grew up over the vine, and it looks so cool because you've got all the squash hanging from the trellis. And what's interesting is, so spaghetti squash is typically this like pale yellow oblong shape. But we have some that are this variegated green speckly variety, and looking it up, it might be a combination between spaghetti squash and zucchini, like it cross-pollinated. We do have spaghetti squash and zucchini growing in the same areas, and a ton of bees. So it's very possible, I guess. I would need to brush up on my plant biology. I did take plant biology in college, but I don't remember a lot of it. But yeah, so that'll be interesting to see what it tastes like and to know when to harvest. Yeah, stay tuned for that update. But so very exciting. We do have a lot of yard work and gardening stuff to do in the coming months before we get our first freeze, which is usually in October. So we have this month to kind of prepare for that, move plants around as needed, split up the iris, divide that up. But yeah, do you do any gardening? Are you a flower gardener, vegetable gardener? Wish to garden? What would you love to plant? Our zinnias are still going strong. They're like 5 feet tall. I had no idea it was going to be such a big bush. It's our first year growing zinnias, and it has been so delightful. They are so fun, and they are a cut flower, so the more you cut, the more it'll bloom. And so we always have a fresh bouquet of zinnias on the table, and they're just so happy. These bright pinks and oranges and some pale pinks and yellows. They're just such a variety. And I think one of the socks I'm showing you today were inspired by the zinnias. I'm pretty sure I showed you the pair that I made for my daughter in the previous episode, inspired by zinnias. So yeah, so that has been super fun. So I have a ton to share with you today because it has been such a long time since I was last here. I have several finished projects, and we'll see by the end of the video how many works in progress I share this round. I might just save it for the next one. We'll kind of see what I'm feeling by the end of this video. But yeah, I do have several to share with you. So I would say grab a beverage, grab a project, get a snack, or whatever you are up to today at this time, or just relax and not have anything going on in your hands. Whatever you are comfortable with, and let's chat. All right, so I might need to stop in a few minutes because I have banana bread in the oven, and I thought it would be done by the time I sat down to record, but it needed a few more minutes, so if that timer goes off, I will just be right back. What beverage are you enjoying today? I have a decaf hot cinnamon black tea in my mug. I will drink hot beverages year-round, but definitely more so when it is chillier, and there goes the timer. I'll be right back. Okay, the banana bread is out of the oven and it smells so good. Do you like making banana bread? Do you like eating banana bread? Do you put a streusel topping or not? I almost always put a streusel topping because who doesn't like streusel toppings on their muffins or breads? I mean, I don't want to say it's the best part, but it definitely tops it off. So that is out cooling. Where was I? Oh, talking about beverages. So yes, I generally like to do decaf if it's any time past like sunrise. I am an early bird, and I also I need my sleep. Now I don't need like a ton of sleep, but I need like, I don't know, is concentrated sleep a thing? I just need like sleep time to be sleep time. I do not like rolling around a bunch and not being able to sleep. It's so annoying and exhausting when you're tired and you can't sleep. So yeah, I try to limit my caffeine intake throughout the day. I mean, I just don't have it throughout the day. I just limit it to the morning because I'm already kind of I feel like anxious and worried about things, and especially during a pandemic. Caffeine doesn't help with that. It just kind of makes me more jittery. So no caffeine for me throughout the day, just early in the morning if necessary. But yeah, so this is my beverage of choice today. What do you have in your mug or cup? Water is also a good choice. I feel like I don't always remember to drink enough water. If I have it in like a water bottle with a straw, I feel like I tend to drink it more often and just more volume than if I just have it in a cup. I don't know, the straw makes me drink more water, I guess. I don't know. Okay, so I have a bunch of finished projects to share with you. I collected them all in a little basket so that I would remember to talk about them. I don't think, yeah, two of them are mine and the other ones are not. So they had been placed in their respective owners' spaces already. But yes, I dug them out and I thought I would talk about them today. But the first one I'd like to share is the one that I'm wearing. It is the Wild Poppy Pullover by Tiff, and that information will be on the screen as well in the description box below. And that's something that I always forget to talk about, is the links and stuff will be in the description box below this video. Sometimes you have to click show more. I try to do websites for the designers and yarn and things like that, because oftentimes if they sell their stuff elsewhere, like Etsy, Ravelry, or wherever, they will list those links on their website. That way I just have to have one spot that you can look for everything. Also, for those that don't use Ravelry or other sites for purchasing their patterns or whatever the case may be, that way you have the website to go to. I will link my Ravelry project pages as well in the description box below, and those will be specifically, like the header will specifically say Ravelry project pages so that you know what those go to. Alright, now I will talk about what I am wearing. This is the Wild Poppy pullover, and I test knit this back in July. Stand up a little so you can see it. I can also insert some of my finished project photos here on the screen. And oh yes, that's the other thing I wanted to mention that I often forget to mention, is that I will put some text on the screen and photos occasionally. So if you're looking down or doing other things, they might get missed. I will do my best to give you kind of a heads up if something might be on the screen, but I don't always know until later when I'm editing that I'm putting something on the screen. So just be aware of that. But yes, so this is the Wild Poppy pullover. I test knit the size 2, and I believe it comes in, let me just check here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9 sizes. So the smallest size is a 33-inch chest circumference, and the largest size is a 64-inch chest circumference. It is knit in fingering weight, and generally I don't gravitate towards fingering weight sweaters just because they seem like they would take forever. However, this one is knit on a looser gauge, so she recommends using US 9, US 8, and US 6 needles for the different parts of the pattern. I just went down 1 needle size for all of those, and I have test knit for Tiff multiple times, and my gauge is just different from hers, so I tend to go down 1 needle size. So yes, the majority of this I knit in US 8 with fingering weight, and I just absolutely adore how it turned out. It is so comfortable. It was very enjoyable to knit. It is a top-down circular yoke, which is my preferred method of pullovers. I just find it really, I guess, more intuitive when I'm making it. And there are short rows in the back to lift the back neckline just slightly, because you do have more space, more back than front, I guess there is one way to describe it. There also is some short row shaping on the bottom hem so that it is a slightly high-low hem, meaning like the front is slightly higher than the back. And all of the fun color work patterning is not something that required a ton of focused attention, which was really nice too. And then I am not much of a lace knitter, so these eyelets are just enough lace for me, if you would call it lace. I guess anything with holey stuff I consider lace, but anyway, I just loved knitting this. I used the Yarn Collective Fleurville 4-ply yarn. It is 100% superwash merino, and I knit mine in the colorways Poppy, which is this like variegated coral color. Or maybe not so much variegated, but very tonal. There are definitely darker spots and lighter spots. And then my contrast color is this mauvey color, which is peony. And that I had remaining from another project, I believe. The Poppy I already had because I knew I was going to make a pullover from it at some point. I just hadn't found the perfect pattern yet. And how much more perfect can this pairing be for a Poppy pullover than to use a colorway named Poppy? So I absolutely love it. I did alternate skeins because the yarn was so tonal. I didn't want like dark spots and then light spots, or like the two skeins to have a stark difference. So I don't believe I did it on the yoke part, which I usually don't because it can get kind of confusing when you have color work or other things going on. So I did start alternating afterwards. And I believe I did the helical method, which is when you knit one, so you'll do your last round with one skein, and when you get to the beginning of round, you'll join your second one, and then you go around, and then 3 stitches before that one, you slip those over, and then you start knitting with your first one again. Did I say that right? Well, if I didn't, look it up, or I'll link to a tutorial in the description box below. But basically, when you do it this way, you're always kind of like catching up with the other, and it knits up in a spiral, and so you have 0 join or twisting or anything on the edge. Now, I don't always do it this way, because if there are other patterning things that are involved, I find that really, it can kind of mess up your patterning. So like when I got to the short rows for the back hem, I just cut the other yarn and just went with one ball instead. But yeah, I find it like a easy and fun way to be alternating your skeins without having like a twist or join or anything on the side or whatever. But to each their own, you can do either way. It's not wrong to do it one way or another. So, what else do I have to say about this? Oh, so I knit the size 2, which gives me a finished circumference of 36.5 inches, I believe, which is about 4 inches of positive ease for me, and it's super comfortable. It also comes with an option for a cropped length or a regular length, and then your sleeves can be elbow length sleeves or bracelet length sleeves. Bracelet length sleeves, there is color work included, whereas the elbow length sleeve, you just finish off your cuff in the contrast color. I love an elbow length sleeve pullover. I find it very versatile and wearable for me. So like I can wear it on its own when it's still a little warmer, and then when it's cooler, I can add a long sleeve shirt underneath. I can also layer this over short sleeve or sleeveless dresses really easily. Today I'm just wearing it with elastic waisted pants, which are basically what I wear all the time. But the top of my hip is here, and I knit the full length version, so it goes a little bit past my hip there. I don't know where the crop length would sit, but I think that's also a great option, especially for layering over dresses. Maybe the dresses have like an A-line or an empire waist where the bottom is fuller, so having a cropped sweater can hit at that natural waistline really nicely to go with the dresses. I am already hoping to make a second one, but considering that I have several kind of works in progress going on right now, I might wait a little bit, but we'll see. I have my colors picked out, so maybe I'll talk about it in a future episode. We shall see. Let's see, was there anything else I wanted to talk about this one? I don't think so. It knit up relatively quickly, just being fingering weight on bigger needles, and it was just, like I said, really enjoyable. And plus my sleeves are shorter, so that makes it quicker too. And I have to say, I don't mind sleeve island, which is a phrase people say when you're like stuck on the sleeves. I think maybe also since knitting socks, I mean knitting sleeves are just kind of like knitting socks, so except bigger, right? And I enjoy knitting socks, so guess what? I enjoy knitting sleeves. Yeah, so I think that is it for that one. So this next one I'd like to share with you is another pullover, but this one is not for me. This one was for our 8-year-old, who is now a 3rd grader. Can you believe it? Well, I guess you might be able to believe it, but I don't know. Sometimes it's hard for me to believe it. So this is based off of the Love Note pullover by Tin Can Knits, which is a fabulous pattern. I have knit it twice in an adult size. And what I did this time is I wanted something that was comforting to knit, didn't take a ton of brain power, and was kind of gave me freedom to create the fabric that I wanted to. And having knit the pattern twice already, it was already something I was familiar with. Again, top-down circular yoke. And this time I omitted the lace because I just didn't want to deal with the lace part. Nothing wrong with it. Clear instructions. Relatively easy for this non-lace knitter to knit, but I didn't want the lace. Sometimes I feel like lace can just be fussy, especially for a child, because then I felt like just the way that lace yoke was, she would have to wear something underneath, and I wanted something that she could choose to either layer or not. So here it is. So this is a DK weight pattern. It has you hold a fingering weight plus a mohair, but I decided just to hold fingering weight double and create a marled stripey look. I'll hold it up a little closer. So what I did was I held one main skein throughout, and then I switched out or just knit till it ran out these little bits, which created a beautiful striping effect. We picked out mostly pinks and purple colors to go in this sweater, and some of them have a little sparkle, which doesn't always show on camera, so you may or may not be able to see the sparkle. But I just love how it turned out. I also changed the ribbing slightly. I changed a lot of things a little bit. But again, I used the Love Note pullover as a base pattern. And you can do this too with any pattern that you like. And just modify it as it works for you. I love this pattern. This one is a paid for pattern, so I won't go into super detail, but the sizing starts from 0 to 6 months all the way to 5XL. So your finished chest circumference actually goes from 24.5 inches to 72.5 inches. Now you may think 24 inches for a 0 to 6 month old might seem huge, but this pattern is written for quite a bit of positive ease. I think my daughter's came out to be, I want to say close to 10 inches of positive ease, so she'll be able to wear this for quite some time and layer it or do whatever she feels comfortable doing. She wanted the short sleeves, so these are actually elbow length sleeve on her. The length is definitely full length on her. I did do the short rows in the back that make the back hem slightly longer. And I got these labels printed. Oh, I love them. So it's on cotton ribbon and it's printed on and it should wash fine, and I just hand sewed it on to the back, and that way she knows where the back is. I probably could have done it a little neater because you can see my sewing thread on the outside. Like if I wrapped it just on one, maybe like one stitch instead of like both legs, you wouldn't see it, but really it doesn't matter. I'm just being picky. But yes, I love how it turned out. The fabric is so nice and drapey and soft, and she loves it. She absolutely loves it. She's already worn it several times, mostly like to the playground, like thrown over something when it's a little chillier in the morning, and then it comes off by the time they've run around for a little bit. But I just love how it turned out. I knit the size 8 to 10 year size, and I also went down needle size. I found that with the other ones that I have knit of this pullover, I like the fabric a little bit denser. I think it has you knit it on, let's see, US 7 and US 10, so US 7 for the ribbon, US 10 for the fabric, but I found it better for me to use US 6 and US 8. And I think my gauge, like density for the fabric, actually came out not terribly off from the original one. I think just using fingering weight held double is going to give me a denser fabric on its own versus fingering plus mohair, because the mohair fuzz kind of fills in the gaps, so it's a little bit different. So yeah, I love how it turned out. I'm trying to see if I ended up writing down how much yarn I used. I may not have. I know I used up almost the entire 100 grams of the main color, which is just the one that I didn't swap out with each section, which is awesome to know, because then if I have those single skeins that I don't have another plan for, I know I can use that and just hold it with other bits of yarn to create sweaters for my kids. And now I need to make one for our 5-year-old because she wants one too, although she has a vest that I knit, our older one, a few years ago now she can wear, and she's like, oh no mommy, I have one already, you don't have to make me another one. But I know she really does want another one, because every time I was working on this one she would ask where hers was or when I was gonna make hers. So I will make her one too. I will be looking through colors to see what to make hers out of, but I was thinking like blues and yellows and peachy and aqua colors. I think that could be really fun. Both of my kids, their favorite colors change by the day, so it could be one thing in the morning and another thing by the afternoon. So they really love all colors. They just want something bright, cheerful, happy, that makes them feel good, and I can do that. So that is her love note. Alright, the next finished project I'd like to share with you is a hat that I knit for my husband. I knit the Held Together hat by Lindsay of Larkspur Knits, and I believe this is my 4th or 5th, I think the 5th time I have knit this pattern. It comes in a range of sizes, but of course, since it is ribbed, it has a lot of give, right, for sizing. So you could potentially knit like a smaller size and have it fit someone bigger than what that size says it's for, because it stretches. And the reason I bring that up is that makes it an excellent pattern for gift knitting. And so I knit this one for my husband, and I receive the monthly yarns from the Farmer's Daughter Fibers, and this is their Sock Squad sock set, and this one is August. Cool as a cucumber. And the set actually is this sage green that's slightly heathered because it's a yak merino nylon base, and meaning that the yarn, like the underlying yarn, is kind of a grayish color. And it came with a mini that's gray, but I'm saving that mini for a future project, and I instead incorporated these two colors, the teal and the coppery brown that I used in my forest fruit socks a while back. And that set is from, is it May? I think this set was from May. And I used minimal yardage for these contrast colors, even less than I think what the pattern states. So if you are looking for ways to just incorporate little bits of color from little amounts of yarn that you're not sure you can knit, you know, anything bigger with, I feel like this is a great way to use those bits of color. Now, I've talked about this in previous episodes that once I use a yarn, it's not like the rest is like not usable, right? It's like if you were painting and you had leftover paint, you don't just toss that rest of that paint, or I don't call it like scraps, right? Because it's just paint. Like the color red is still usable as the color red, even if I've opened the tube or used the, you know, little square of it or whatever. But someone did mention on my episode that where I talk about like scraps, not so scrappy scraps or something like that, that the term scrappy comes from quilting. So like quilters use scraps of fabric that to create these beautiful quilts, and so it's not necessarily something that's negative, and I don't necessarily see it as negative. I just don't want, I just feel like it comes across sounding like, oh, it's just leftovers. I don't know, and I like leftover food too, so that's not really negative either, but I just don't want people to think like, oh, once you use a full skein, like the rest is just no use and you have to use it up. I see it more as like a paint palette, like awesome, now I have this beautiful color that I can incorporate into other things. Just because it didn't start out as 100 grams doesn't mean it's no good. I don't know. Anyway, just going off on a slight tangent there, but saying that when you have all these little bits of beautiful colors, there's just such a big range of possibilities of things that you can make, and it's so exciting and so much fun. This hat I knit I think I did the adult large. Let me just double check here how many sizes it comes in. I'm going to say 4 or 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, 6! Okay, so it starts in baby and goes all the way to adult large. My husband has a pretty big head, so I knit the largest size. He also does like his hats to fit more snug, so I find this also a good pattern for him. And I just love that you fold up the cuff, because he doesn't like having cold ears. Nobody likes, well, maybe some people like, I shouldn't say nobody likes cold ears, but when it gets really windy, wind blowing through the ears is just really uncomfortable, so having that extra layer is really nice. Also, everybody wears their hat slightly differently, so some people might prefer, you know, covering more of the forehead. Some people might not like their foreheads covered and like it more in the back. So I find having a cuffed hat so much better because you can adjust it. Like let's say you don't want the back coming down as far, then just fold it up higher. Or let's say you want the front to come down farther, just you know, undo the cuff a little bit. So there you go. I have yet to knit one for myself, so that's on the agenda. I do love how it fits and how it looks, and it is a pattern I highly recommend. You do fingering weight held double. I forgot to mention that, which is how you end up with these beautiful marled stripes in there. And I did not use up the full 100 grams of the sage green. I think I almost did though. Let's see. How much did I have left? I used 93 grams, so now I have a little bit that I can use in something else. And for my contrast colors, the teal I used about 7 grams, and my brown color I used about 2 grams. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of how much yarn you might need for a project like this. And again, this is the largest size, so everything else you make will use less than that. I don't think I have anything else to say about this one, but yeah, highly recommend. I love this pattern. Okay, so I think we are now going into all about socks. So in the next 2 pairs of socks, I will share with you our socks that I knit for my husband. He loves wearing the socks that I knit him, and I think I have knit him 6, 7 pairs by now. I'm not actually entirely sure. Maybe these are 6 and 7. Anyway, but this pair I think I shared in the last episode. I didn't follow any specific pattern. They are a 3x1 rib, which means knit 3, purl 1. So you have a little bit of a stretch from this purl channel, and I did that all the way around for the leg, including a cuff, or you could say there's no cuff because it's just the same patterning throughout. And then I did a shadow wrap heel, and then I continued a 3x1 ribbing for the top, and then just did stockinette on the bottom, and then a rounded toe. And this yarn is the Knit Picks Hawthorne Fingering in Mount Tabor, and I used US 2 or 2.75 millimeter needles. And the yarn is a 80% superwash Peruvian Highland wool and 20% nylon. It is a little bit thicker, or just definitely more plump. It is 357 yards for 100 grams, and I really like that weight of yarn and using US 2 needles with that. I find it knits at a nice gauge and comfortable on my hands, and it wears well. The shadow wrap heel is from Denise of Earth Tones Girls Socksploration Shadow Wrap Heel pattern, which I highly recommend. If you've been watching for a little while, you'll know that I just absolutely love the heel. I test knit the pattern for her back in April, and I have knit so many pairs of socks with this heel. It just fits really well. And the instructions are very clear and easy to follow, and I find it a pattern that I can memorize, or not can, I have memorized, and yeah, you can adapt it to lots of different stitch counts for your socks as well. Let's see, what else to say about this? Oh, my gauge. It ended up being 8 stitches per inch for this, and the amount of yarn I used was about 80 grams total. And I cast on 64 stitches with the US 2s, and I did the 3x1 ribbing for 60 rounds for the leg, which then after the heel, I believe, was it 6 inches from the cast on edge to the heel, or 6 inches before I started the heel? Kind of looks more like 6 inches before I started the heel, and then maybe afterwards it's an 8-inch leg total from the base of the heel. I think that's right. Yes, and then for the foot I did 55 rounds after the heel, and then I have my toes, and that fits really well for him. He wears a US 10 men's shoe, and foot circumference is, darn it, I didn't. Foot circumference is 9.5 inches and foot length is 10 inches. So that kind of gives you a good idea of how much yarn I used up and how these socks worked out. So that's that. And then the next pair of socks, I think I pretty much followed the Socksploration Shadow Wrap Heel pattern by Denise, and these are also for my husband. Now, I know previously I said he doesn't like things super exciting as far as color and things that he wears. However, he liked this yarn and he liked these socks. So, let me see if I can find my notes on this one. Here they are. Okay. So these I used US 1.5, which is a 2.5 millimeter needle, and the yarn that I used is by Woolen and Natasha, and it's a Targhee sock base, which is 90% Targhee wool and 10% nylon. Yeah, 90% and 10%, and 411 yards for 100 grams. And it is a very plump yarn that's very round and super comfortable to knit with. And look at this! This is a self-striping yarn dyed by Michelle of Woolen and Natasha. It is a seconds, so it was like when she was trying to figure out this colorway. So it's Summer by the Lake, and her final color sequence and colors for this Summer by the Lake colorway is not the same as this one. So I bought this one at a discounted rate, and, or not discounted rate, discounted price. And I like how it turned out. I did not make them super matchy-matchy, so I guess they're a fraternal pair. I wound the yarn up, and then I wound the second cake up from, I must have done it from the outside, so then they're in reverse order. So the nice thing about that is then I don't have to think about things matching up or not, because the colors are going in opposite directions anyway. And then I did not feel like changing out for a contrast heel, and with the magic of self-striping yarn and this kind of short row heel, they just kind of magically, I guess you could say, color blocked itself into a really cool heel. So that's what that one looks like, and then this one has the red on the bottom instead of on the top. Isn't that super fun? So these fit him really well too. These are knit up at a denser gauge with the smaller needle, and they fit him really well. All right, on to two pairs of socks that I knit for myself. The first one are the ones inspired by zinnias. I think I had mentioned it earlier. Oh, I forgot to put my husband's socks on the blockers, but I think you could see them pretty well. They were pretty flat. So these colors were inspired by our zinnias in our garden, and I knit the Ocean Drive pattern by Megan of Pip and Pin. Aren't they so happy? I love how they turned out. Just super, super fun. If I can remember the colors, I'll tell you here. So this hot pink is Vice by Less Traveled Yarn. And then you have orange, which is Terracotta by Malabrigo Sock. And then this peach color is Reef by the Kinetic Knitter. And then this peachy color is from one of the Sock Squad sock sets, A New Dawn, in January's Farmer's Daughter Fibers Sock Squad. And then this slightly hint of peachy cream is a one of a kind dyed by Gwen of Bella Filato Studio. There, got it. In this pattern, I believe it has you do it like a contrast heel, but I wanted it to come out of the stripe, so I just used that same color. And the pattern does come with a short row heel pattern written in, but of course I substituted it with the shadow wrap heel, and it worked great. And yeah, I think the pattern comes with written and charted instructions for how to do the color work. It was super enjoyable, really fun. I used, I think US 1 or 2.25 millimeter needles for the cuff. And then once I got to the color work, I switched to US 1.5 or 2.5 millimeter needles. I think I did that. I don't think I used US 1.5 for the entire thing, but let me just double check here. That's the problem when I don't talk about them right away. I kind of forget those little details. And I do think they're helpful, especially if you're debating whether or not it's a pattern you want to try, or maybe you think, do I need to go up a needle size for color work? Do I not? And of course that depends on everybody's gauge. Oh, and my notes here say I used US 1.5 the entire way, even for the cuff and the portions that didn't have color work, which I guess to each their own. I've done other projects where I will start with US 1, and then once I hit color work sections, I go up a needle size or half a needle size, and then go back down for, like, you know, for the heel, I could potentially go back down to US 1 and then switch to US 1.5 again once I get to the foot. But I guess I didn't do it here, which is fine. They fit really well, super comfortable. And because you have so many stripes, you don't end up using a ton of each color. I think I followed the pattern, yeah, I think I followed the pattern exactly on the number of colors to use. And my yardages, so let's see, for the main color, for the hot pink, I ended up using almost 10 grams. And for the orange, I used almost 12 grams. For the pink, I used almost 15 grams. And for the peachy color, 10 grams. And the creamy color, 10 to 11 grams. So in total, I used about 57 grams. So I used less than 60 grams total for this pair of socks. And I knit the size small for a 7-inch finished circumference, and my feet are 8-inch circumference, so I like that 1 inch of negative ease, if not more sometimes, just because I feel like knit socks often stretch out just throughout the day as you wear them, so I prefer just a little more negative ease. They just feel more comfortable on my foot that way. And I wear a US 7 women's shoe size and foot length of 9¼ inches, if that gives you, you know, a little bit of reference point on where my socks, you know, like yardage and all that stuff for socks, and if you are planning on knitting your own, maybe it just gives you kind of a point of reference to go off of. Alright, the last finished project I'd like to share with you are a pair of DK weight socks. So you can knit DK weight socks using DK weight yarn held on its own, or you can hold fingering weight yarn double to achieve a DK gauge. So I knit these ones on US 3 needles. I used US 4 needles for these, which are 3.5mm needles. I was debating whether or not I wanted a denser gauge and then just increase stitch count, or slightly looser gauge and increase the needle size, which are both fun ways to play with how you want to knit up your fabric density. So I ended up deciding to go with a 4 because I wanted the option of it being like slightly slouchier without it being too tight around my legs. And I probably could have actually increased the stitch count for the top part and then decreased down smaller if I wanted to, just for extra slouch, but I'm happy with how they turned out. So I did not follow a specific pattern on these. The dark purple is Mulberry dyed by Gwen of Bella Filato Studio, and that is a DK weight yarn already. It's a 75%, 25% superwash merino nylon, and it comes in, let's see, 245 yards for 100 grams. So it's nice to have, I guess, nylon in some of the DK weight yarns for socks, just for hard wearing. And I decided to use that for my heel, of course, shadow wrap heel. And then I also used it for the toe. And then in the leg and the foot, I held a less traveled yarn, sock yarn double, and that is also a 75-25 superwash merino nylon blend. And I believe this colorway is called Fruity Cocktail from Sarah's Enchantment collection, maybe. I was getting some of her monthly sock set subscriptions for a little while. I don't currently, but this is from that. So when you sign up for that subscription, I believe those colorways, a lot of them are like trials, experiments, and some of them may go into their regular lineup of colorways, but it doesn't show up until maybe 6 months afterwards. But yeah, this one's kind of fun. It's like a peachy color with these blue, purpley, plummy speckles in them, and it's a lot more variegated when it was in the full skein, but by holding it double, it spreads out some of those concentrated areas of speckling or splashes of color and creates a more uniform effect. Yeah, I actually really like doing that with some of the highly variegated yarns, and it's not like I have a problem with knitting with highly variegated yarns into socks, but just depending on my mood, it's nice to have that option. So that's a great way to kind of, not really marling because I'm holding the same one together, but you could definitely marl if you wanted to use 2 different colors to achieve the DK weight for these socks. So a lot of times people might have little bits of yarn remaining from other projects, and that's a great way to kind of marl throughout. You could create a fade, you could do stripes, there's just lots of options. But for this one, I decided just to use the same skein for that part. And I ended up using, let me see, about 30 grams of my contrast color, which is the DK weight yarn, and then about 73 grams of that full skein that I used for the other part of the sock, which then gives me a little bit remaining for contrast colors for maybe another sock or a hat or something like that. So I love how these turned out. They're super comfortable, and I can wear them pulled all the way up over my leggings as well, or kind of like scrunched down like this. So that's a fun option. I don't think I have much more to say on that. I guess I should tell you some numbers. I shared this also on my Instagram too, in case you want to like save a post. You can save a post. I think there's like a little tabby type of thing that looks like a tab or washi tape or something like that to save to a collection. Some of the patterns that, or recipes I guess, I do share on my Instagram posts for finished projects, and that way if you want to reference that later you can. Otherwise my Ravelry project page is also linked in the description box below with those details. But I will tell you now as well. So I did an old Norwegian cast on of 40 stitches using the contrast color. I did a 2x2 rib, which is knit 2 purl 2 for 20 rounds. Then I knit one more round with my contrast color before I cut that and joined the main color. Then I knit 60 rounds with this main color. Then I knit in my shadow wrap heel with a contrast color. And then for the foot, I did 50 rounds before cutting that and doing a rounded toe with the contrast color. And that works well for me. Again, play around with stitch count, play around with your fabric density to see what you like. I think, yeah, I definitely could have gone up a little bit more if I wanted to. Let me see if I can, I don't know, this may not be a good idea. I'm gonna see if I can put it on my foot so I can show you better. Let's see here. This could be disastrous, but okay. So I've got the sock on my foot and it comes up, it doesn't cover my entire calf, like the end of my, I don't know, maybe mid, but definitely higher than mid calf. And it sits up pretty well. I mean, I think this will go really nicely in my boots. I have these fall boots that probably go up to where the cuff starts, and that's what I wanted. I wanted them kind of peek out. I should try them on with those. Not right now. But anyway, if I didn't want to wear them up high like this, I can easily scrunch them down. So I hope that worked. Hopefully you could see that. It was a little awkward, but I kind of knew that going into it. Anyway, so I think that is it for all the finished projects. I do think that I will share with you a few works in progress, but maybe after I go like switch out the laundry and I don't know, we'll see. Take a little break from talking and I will be right back. All right, on to the works in progress. I do have several, as usual. There's a test knit that I am working on in this beautiful bag. I made this bag to kind of go with the feel of fall, and it's so pretty. There's some grapes, and I think this is a Rifle Paper Company fabric. So it's got these like pinks and olivey greens, and then I accented kind of the side with this white and really pale pink floral design, and then the drawstring channel has olive on it and it's cotton cording, and I think yeah, the bottom is a denim boxed bottom. I don't follow a specific pattern for my bags, so every single one that I make is kind of one of a kind. I do write some things down, but not really. I've been sewing from a very young age. My mom sews, my grandma sews, and it's just in my blood. So yeah, I don't follow a specific pattern. I don't plan on writing up a pattern. I don't plan on doing tutorials. I know I've been asked that, and it's like no hard feelings. It's just something that I'm not set up to do, and it's not something that I desire to do either, because basically any time spent on something that I don't feel like doing is time taken away from things that I could be doing that I want to do. Yeah, so there's lots of people out there that teach sewing that you can look into. There's also lots and lots of tutorials on YouTube. There are written tutorials. There's just lots of stuff out there. So I totally got off on a tangent there. I was going to say that there was stuff that I wasn't potentially going to talk about till next time, but then I went into bags. So I guess I will just tell you what's in this bag then, because it's kind of strange to show you it and then not tell you what's in it. It is not a secret. Yeah, so I guess I'll show you what's inside. Let me pull them up. So I am testing these, oh, super cozy socks. They are called the Forest Trail Socks. I am testing these for Natasha of Northern Knits and Purl. She has a wonderful YouTube channel. Definitely go check it out. Her Instagram feed is also super inspiring. I just love the things that she does. And I have test knit for her. I think this is my third test knit for her. I don't really remember, but yeah, I really like her patterns. I think they're well written. They are thoughtfully written, thoughtfully laid out, so it's easy on the eyes, and I just enjoy her patterns. I think they're fun to make. So, Forest Trail Socks. Look at that! It is looking a little warmer on screen, I think. I'm not entirely sure. It might not look as warm on screen later, but right now it's looking a little warmer. It's kind of a chartreusey, yeah, kind of a chartreusey olive green that I am knitting these out of. I will show you the yarns. So it is a DK weight pattern. I won't tell you the super details because I am testing it, and you'll just have to follow her or check out her YouTube channel to find out more about it, because she did talk a little bit about it, I think, in her latest episode. But I am knitting the smallest size, size A, and I use US 3 or 3.25 millimeter needles. My gauge is spot on with hers, and it has been for her other test knits as well, so I guess we knit at a similar gauge. So I have these two yarns that I'm holding together. This olivey green one is number 112, and I believe the colorway is olive. That's what the tag says, but anyway, the color number is 112, and it's Mondim. It is a non-superwash, 100% Portuguese wool, and that comes in, I think, let's see, 421 yards for 100 grams. And then this beautiful fuzzy mohair is dyed by Colleen of Little Lionhead Knits, and it is called Apple, and I believe I bought this one as a seconds. I don't know if there was like maybe the dye didn't take in certain places the way she wanted it to. I see some like little red bits, which I'm not sure if they're supposed to be there or not, but I like them, and they don't, I mean, they're not like a negative thing for me, but I see the little red spots in a few spots, and I believe this one's called Apple, so it works, right? But it's so beautiful, and this one is 70% mohair and 20% silk, and together they just really, really match and make a beautiful fabric. So the socks are knit cuff down. They have a beautiful patterning on the front, and I am past the heel flap, and I think I'm past the gusset on this one. Oh, no, I'm still on, maybe still on the gusset. I don't really remember. Maybe I'm just past the gusset on here. I'm onto the feet now. The stitch marker I have on here is a 4-leaf clover, and that is by Maria of Woolen Forest, or Forest Charm on Etsy. And then I like to knit my socks 2 at a time, but on their own sets of needles. If you've been watching for a while, you might know that that is kind of my preferred method. I feel like then I am not feeling like I am starting over and having to knit the same thing over again when knitting a pair of socks, versus I'm knitting like cuffs, you know, 2 cuffs at a time, 2 legs at a time, 2 heels at a time, and then they're just kind of always catching up with each other, and I finish with a pair of socks, so I don't have second sock syndrome. Now, I won't say this is maybe the most like cost-effective way to do it, because then you do need 2 sets of needles versus just 1. Or for those who knit 2 at a time on 1 set, like a 40-inch circular needle, then you also only need 1 needle. But the way I'm knitting them, since I'm knitting 2 at a time on their own 9-inch circular needles, I do have to buy 2 needles. But for me, it's worth it, because then it means I actually finish my pairs of socks, versus if I did them 1 at a time, and if I never finished and I had a bunch of half socks, then I wouldn't be wearing them because they would all be half socks, and then I wouldn't be finishing my project. So to me, it's worth it. So here's the other one. They're both at the same spot. Oh yes, I remembered. My goal was to finish gussets most recently, so gussets are done. But yeah, this one has a rose gold pine cone on it. I thought it was very appropriate to do that for Forest Trail socks. So that is all I'm going to say on those. I am loving this pattern. The next pair of socks I'd like to share with you are also by Natasha. Now these are the spring rain socks. Now I test knit these back, was it March or April? I can't even remember. My sense of time is so strange these last 2 years. I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate. Since the pandemic began, it just seems like a lot of things blur together, and either time is going super fast or super slow or both simultaneously. And when I talk about things like, oh, last year, I'm often skipping over year 2020 and actually talking about 2019. Yeah, just kind of strange. Anyway, back to the socks. These are also in a bag that I sewed up. Can you tell I am a total autumnal girl? I mean, I love all seasons. I just love seasons. But, I mean, this is fall, right? So I've had this apple canvas fabric forever. I don't know if anybody with children can relate, but oftentimes I feel like I section out my life in like pre-children versus like a post-children life, or sometimes it's like before college or after college or like whatever, but a lot of it tends to be like pre-children, post-children life. So I've had this fabric pre-children, and I just love how it turned out, and it's super autumnal. So this, the pair of socks I'm knitting in here are called the Spring Rain Socks by Natasha, except I am knitting a fall version of these Spring Rain Socks. My first version I knit in like a sky blue with like a kind of a cantaloupe orange contrast. This time I am using a sock set by Zandy of Polar Bear Yarn. I will hold up the band here on the screen. And the colorway, this was a mystery. It was like her monthly mystery set. And what I do appreciate about hers is she offers half skein sock sets, so 50 grams instead of 100 grams. And I often find that's plenty of yarn for me to knit a pair of socks, especially if there's a contrast color or I just throw in a contrast color with it, because oftentimes my socks are like 70 grams or less, and so it's perfect. So this colorway was Campfire, and that was her inspiration photo that she put up on her Instagram feed, and then the colorways you would receive were actually mysteries, and then she had little add-ons and stuff. So I chose a 50 gram set, and there was a bonus 10 gram, so there were actually 3 colors instead of 2 that we received. It's fingering weight 80% superwash merino wool, 20% nylon, and you could actually choose between an 80-20 or a 75-25. And I believe this month's, or is it next month's maybe, she had a DK version on there as well that you could choose from. But here's the info on that. It's 200 yards for 50 grams. So then, let's see here, I'll show you the colors. So this is also a cuff down sock. There is some fun cable detailing and some texture on the foot. Isn't this beautiful? This brown reminds me of like gingerbread houses. And then this green has so much depth and variation to it. And these are all naturally dyed. I forgot to mention that. It's super cool. I don't know a ton about natural dyeing, but I think it's really, really neat. And I made these little progress keepers to go with it. Of course, apples, right? Now, I have to tell you, so this here is a red and green apple. So this polymer clay I have had literally 25 years. And the reason I know it's 25 years is because it says so on the box. I still have it all in the box that I got it from 25 years ago. And because it's polymer clay, it doesn't dry out. Now, I wouldn't say like maybe a professional feels like the quality is the best. Like it probably is more brittle, and even after you cure it from baking, it probably breaks easier and things like that. But for just me using it, I think it's fine. The kids have been playing around with it and really enjoying it too, and so why not? Yeah, so these socks are turning out really lovely. I think I have the gusset to finish on that other one, and then this one I believe the gusset is finished and I am onto the foot. So there's this beautiful little cable detail after the cuff, and then texture throughout. And oh, and then I am knitting these shorter. So the pattern is written for a longer leg, which I did during my test knit, and then I had really wanted to knit a shorter version, so these are my short version. So next time I record, they may be done, they may not be. I have no like big deadline on these, but I definitely would like to finish them in September because, I mean, there's so many socks to knit. And not just socks, there's a lot of projects that I am really excited about, especially with the weather cooling down. And I am not somebody that only knits in the winter or the fall. I knit year-round, but you know, when the weather gets cooler, there's definitely a different feel for maybe the colors that I'm drawn to or the types of projects that I want to knit. So yeah, there's a lot. Here is the remaining green. You can see there's a lot of variation. Now this green was the bonus. There was 10 grams of this thrown in, and here's the 20 gram. It's this beautiful tonal yellow, and I plan on using this for the color work portion that's in the toe, or right before the toe. So that will be coming. I'm excited about that. So yeah, I feel like this is a super autumnal combination, and I really, really love it, and I'm looking forward to wearing these. Okay, so I think I might have just enough battery left to show you one more work in progress. Well, let me sneak in the last two because I don't have a ton to say about this one. Another project bag that I sewed. I love this one. Now, the next two are actually both this fabric combo. It's because I bought this thermos and tea one from Spoonflower's Fat Quarter fabric sale, and I use that in both of these, and I just use up every single little bit of that fabric. So really love it. Now this one, the yarn is, I don't know the dyer, I don't know anything about it because I bought it in a D-stash, and I knew it would be self-striping just based on the way it was skeined up, and it is, and it's fabulous, and I will show you what it looks like. Isn't this so cool? Now I am knitting these identical, which means so I wound the yarn up into one full cake, and then I pulled, I can't remember if I pulled from the inside outside, but I had to rewind it, I think. No, I pulled from the outside. Anyway, now I can't remember which way I pulled it, but it doesn't matter. They're the same. So they both start out with this beautiful green on top that has some red speckling in it, and then it goes into this like cranberry burgundy red, into a purple, into a gray with the red, then orange, then teal, then I can't tell if it's super navy, like a really, really dark navy, or black, and then back to the green. And again, I have progress keepers on here from Maria. This one has an oak leaf on it and a raw stone. This one has a different leaf on it. Ah, I just love it. Now, the reason I have these going is because I feel like I always need to have a pair of, well, not need, but I enjoy having a pair of, like, just no thinking, meditative stockinette socks on the go. They're just quick and easy to pick up and put down, and because I knit mine on 9-inch circulars, it's not like I have to finish anything on one needle before putting it away. It's so easy to just pick up and put down, and no matter how tired I am, or if I'm the passenger in a car, like, this is perfect knitting, and I don't have to be staring at it or following a pattern or anything like that. So it's just really nice to have one on hand, and of course these don't have any sort of deadline either, but I might call these my Halloween socks because they feel really Halloween-y, don't you think? Definitely autumnal, but I think kind of Halloween-y. I love it. So yes, these are the ones that I can just throw into my backpack for going on a hike or wherever, just to have, just in case. Okay. Oh, and that one I'm not following any particular pattern. I think it's just my like standard cast on of, I think I did 60 stitches, Old Norwegian cast on 60 stitches, US 1 2.25 millimeter needles, ribbing for about 20 something rounds. Or with striped socks, I like to go until a color stripe is done. And then I'll just do a stockinette for the leg for as long as I feel like it, and we'll see what happens from there. Okay, very last work in progress before this battery just dies on me. I sewed this enormous bag because I needed an enormous bag for this project, and I love tote bags. I'm such a bag lady. My mom loves bags too, and so I just grew up with bags and bags and bags. And I remember my husband, I think when we were dating, he would make fun of me saying like, wait, so you have a bag in that bag, in that bag? And I'm thinking, of course I do. It's how you keep organized, right? Well, anyway, so here's my bag. Denim box bottom, and then I have this beautiful fabric on top, and then I sewed in this cotton webbing with it, and then also this drawstring. I think next time maybe I'll try doing the drawstring where it's like higher up so that when you cinch it, it cinches over like this top part instead of cinching in your whole bag. Does that make sense? Because then you don't eat up the room on top, and it can kind of stay more open, but just cinch in the middle. I don't know what that's called, but I don't think it's too hard to do. I'll have to figure that out. I also did pockets inside of this one. I used canvas. I don't know if I'm going to show this, but everything falling out. So there's one I can stick like needles in, pattern in, phone in. Yeah, and I do use, I think I used fusible fleece interfacing on this bag, so it stands up fine on its own, and it's nice and sturdy, especially for a bigger project. I don't want it too floppy. So on to what is in the project. This is my half and half triangles wrap by Purl Soho. It is a free pattern. I am using the recommended yarn for it, which is Purl Soho's linen quill, and it is so fabulous. Now, I will tell you, I had my doubts about this to start. One, the large size says that you need 6 skeins of yarn. That's a lot of fingering weight yarn for a wrap. 2, that's a lot of yarn for a wrap. Now, I have no issues with knitting garter flat. I love it. I can knit stockinette in the round forever. I can knit garter flat for miles. And thankfully, well, not thankfully, but I mean, I do, so I love this project, right? This is where I'm at. It's just like a lot of fabric to look at. I don't even know how to describe it. But basically, the project is a big square with 2 triangles of different colors. The construction is super interesting. I've never knit anything like this before. It's basically all short rows. The pattern has you do wrap and turns. I'm doing German short rows because that's my preferred short row method. And yeah, I can't really explain how it goes. You cast on for your size, and then that triangle gets bigger, but the number of stitches that you knit gets less and less as you go. And then I haven't gotten to the transition part yet, so I can't tell you how that works. But I'm assuming you resolve your short rows and then you start your short rows again, because then your triangle is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, if I've explained that incorrectly, I apologize. You should just go look at the pattern. Because it is kind of mind-boggling how it works and fascinating all at the same time. So, you also don't use up all 6 skeins. You use up more like 5, so 2.5-ish of each. And this is the rest of my second skein so far. So I think I have like 10 grams of it left, which is super exciting. I'd love to get through this sometime this week and join in my third, because I can't wait to get in my second color. Now, the colors I'm using are Rose Granite, which is this like, I want to say like color shifting yarn. It's like a really rosy gray, maybe, but not even gray. It's like a warm rosy gray. I love it. And I have been using on my hands the Plum and Amber Hand Balm by Tuft Woolens. So it's making my project smell super good. My hands get really dry just from a lot of hand washing and dishwashing and all of that other stuff. But this Plum and Amber Hand Balm, oh, so good. I don't always like super fruity smelling stuff, but I like this one. And I have a bunch of hand balms made by Martha, and I love all of them. They work so well because they don't leave your hands greasy. Like, they definitely moisturize, but they don't leave them greasy or sticky or anything. And I get a lot of cracks on my fingertips as soon as it starts getting drier and cold, and I find this super helpful. It also works really well for heels. If you have cracked heels, which I do, I use this. Oh, let me show you the second color. Hold on. Let's see. So the second color I'm using is Rosewood Pink, and it is this beautiful, kind of a dusty pink. You can see the linen sticking out. So the little hairs, the white hairs. Oh, here's the tag. So it's 50% Highland wool, 35% alpaca, 15% linen, and this is non-superwash as well. It makes it for a very light fabric. I think you can't. I mean, if you didn't want to use linen quill, you can totally use something else. But I feel like if you used superwash merino, it tends to stretch and get heavy, and so that would be my concern for something so big to use a superwash merino. I just feel like it wouldn't hold its shape as well. But I mean, don't take my word for it. I haven't tried it like that. It's just my like brain thinking about how it might turn out. So I really, really like this linen quill. I don't find it scratchy. I don't find it itchy. It is really comfortable, you know, on my neck, anywhere else. Oh, needle size. I'm using US 3s, 3.25 millimeter needles. Now, I'm already thinking of future ones because I just love it that much, and there are so many beautiful colors that I'm thinking of knitting a size, not the small. So it comes in a small and a large, but I feel like the small is going to be way too small, and this large is going to be massive. And nothing wrong with it big, like this is fabulous, right? But I think because it doesn't use up so much of the third skein, I would rather cast on something that can use up fully maybe 2. So I'm thinking if I increase the needle size to US 4 and then cast on the number of stitches kind of between the small and the large, it should work out just fine, but we shall see. Whew. So if you're still here, thank you for watching. I feel like I should have said this in the beginning, but you never have to obviously watch any of my videos all in one sitting. Something that I have been doing is creating, I think they're called chapters, where in the description box below, it'll have like timestamps and then kind of like a general of what's in that timestamp, kind of like a table of contents, if you will, and then you can click on each section and just watch that section. So let's say you think, okay, well, I have like 15 minutes here, so then you might just watch 15 minutes of like a section or something like that. And I feel like that makes it a little bit easier also to search for things for myself or maybe anybody else looking for something. I just separate it out by, sorry, my hair is in my mouth, by like the intro vlog section, which I inserted here with some footage from like August stuff. And then I section it out by like finished projects, works in progress, and kind of a wrap up. But yeah, so hopefully that is helpful to you. I find it helpful for me if I'm looking for stuff back in my videos. But yeah, I hope you are doing really well, and that wherever you are taking care, being safe, finding things that bring you joy each day. I know, you know, personally, some days can feel more challenging than others. Not even whole days, but like minutes here and there can feel more challenging than others. And sometimes it's easier to laugh than other times. So yeah, I'll leave it with that. But cheers to being creative. I hope you are doing really well, and I will talk to you next time.